Welcome back, troglodytes, to the Trogly's Guitar Show. Today we have a made-to-measure, custom-ordered Les Paul. However, it is very similar to a run that Gibson did in 2018. Last year, I made a video that covered all of the currently released 2018 limited edition models, so you can check that one out, but let's just talk about those for a second. This year birthed so many cool limited edition guitars. I think among my favorites were the SG Flying Eagle, the Modern Flying V, the Ice Flame, the 68 Gold Top Reissue Crown, and the Scorpion Les Paul was pretty cool too. Now, despite what you think of the limited edition 2018s, yes, they were kind of a Hail Mary for Gibson, trying to get some extra sales before eventually going under bankruptcy and all that other good stuff. But it definitely birthed a bunch of really cool stuff. So this instrument was based off of the Les Paul Custom Chambered series. These were essentially aimed at exotic car collectors because they used similar colors that you would find there, such as F1 Orange, Diablo Yellow, Stallion Red, and Ebony. But those were a one-piece chambered mahogany body with a two-piece maple top and a mahogany neck. So yeah, that's a pretty standard Les Paul right there. But what was interesting about them is since they're custom shop, they have a long neck tenon, but they're not historic, so they still have the Nashville-styled bridge. They came stock with the EMG 8185 pickup set, which is all done with quick connects, and the battery's just attached to the back side of the control plate. And another cool feature about those is they had stock, from the factory, Schaller strap locks. And all their hardware was blacked out, as mentioned in the name. But now for your guys' consideration is this made-to-measure, custom-ordered version. I don't know about you guys, but I love the made-to-measure program. There's so many cool guitars that get made. I'll be sharing another one with you guys very shortly, and definitely check out that 3P90 white Les Paul video I did previously. That was another M2M creation. But this one was custom ordered to the chambered Blackout specs. However, they changed two things. They weren't happy with orange, yellow, red, or black. They decided to go for this really interesting finish that I bet would have been called Ice Blue Prism or something like that. It's kind of a baby blue color, but when you get it in the light, it turns like an aged Pelham blue. So it's got a little bit of greenness to it and a little bit of yellow. It's just a really interesting sight in person. But the other customized spec feature has to be my absolute favorite thing, and I didn't even know it when I purchased this guitar. It doesn't have a mahogany neck. It has something way better in my eyes. It's a 5-piece maple neck, and that's just amazing. Now, how can you tell it's a 5-piece maple neck? Because you can't see through the paint in the truss rod cavity. But if you get this guitar in the light, and it's not necessarily just at the right angle, it's pretty much ever apparent, you can see the two strips of walnut running down the neck. And that's very apparent at the heel joint right here. And whenever you see that, you know it's maple. So I thought that was a really cool feature to have that. So a maple neck as compared to a mahogany neck, these ones will have a slightly brighter, snappier tone, which, you know, that might pair well with this chambered body. Speaking of being chambered, this one isn't overly light. Sometimes you'll get chambered Les Pauls that weigh 7 pounds, sometimes even a little bit less. But this one's a nice chunky 8 pounds, 13 ounces. It's almost that perfect 9-pound mark. It has a nice C medium neck profile. It's definitely starting to range on 50s neck territory. But one last feature I would like to talk about is the binding. What makes these different from other Les Paul Customs is they only have single-ply binding along the top. So if you think they look vastly different and it's not just the color and the EMG pickups, it's because the binding is significantly different. Usually you would have additional layers kind of stemming into the guitar a little bit, but this one, it's just got that single ply black around the back as well as the top. You also have that same phenomenon going along the top of the headstock, and that's why this looks a little bit off as well. Not only do you have the blacked out mother of pearl Gibson logo and custom emblem, but the binding isn't as thick. Just as a fun fact, of the chambered Blackout series, only the black version got multi-ply binding, only on the headstock. Same thing with this neck. You do have binding and you do have fret nibs. They're just black, so it blends in perfectly with the Richlight fretboard. And yes, this fretboard does have inlays. They are the black mother of pearl, which I think is awesome. This is what I suggested they should do if they ever do another Buckethead signature guitar, because it gives the appearance of being completely blank, but yet you as the player know there's a little something special on the board. Now let's talk about these EMG pickups for a minute. Les Paul players, Gibson people in general, we have a real hatred towards EMGs. And why is that? Because you have to completely gut the guitar and put all new electronics in to have these. These are high output pickups that really drive your amp. When you play them clean, you get into that breakup territory very quickly. You don't find them stock in Gibson guitars a lot, but there was a series in the late 80s called the Showcase Edition, where all of them, well, except for the Gold Top Standard, came stock with the EMGs. And honestly, I think those guitars sound pretty good. The EMG 8185 is pretty much the most popular combination, and they're great for metal. So now that we've learned a little bit more about this custom ordered Les Paul chambered Blackout, let's go ahead and hear how this one sounds. that we know how this instrument sounds, let's go ahead and review its condition. This guitar was purchased. It really doesn't look like it was hardly ever played. So you mainly just have some light scratches, fingerprints, as well as some factory defects. You can kind of see a small ding on the custom block inlay when we get it there. The worst cosmetic impression has to be this ding/finish check along the side of the headstock. And you can also see the typical lacquer shrinking lines around the Gibson inlays. But here's a good way to show off how this finish will look in person when I get the light on it, see how it changes colors. That's kind of what adds the Prism factor to the name. Truss rod is perfect, it doesn't look like it's ever been adjusted. You have your stock black graphite nut. Now, something to note just about Gibsons in general, you do have some lacquer shrinking lines around where the nut ends and the rest of the neck begins, and honestly, it doesn't affect it too much cosmetically either. The frets are in beautiful shape. I just cleaned the frets and conditioned the fretboard, so you are all good here. I just love these blacked out mother of pearl inlays. This is the first one that I've actually had in person just to see how awesome they are. This instrument is all stock, so if you don't like the EMGs, you are breaking the originality of the guitar. But hey, it's a made-to-measure custom order anyways. That's kind of the nice thing about the EMGs being quick connect, is you could just buy one of the PCB boards and hook up regular electronics in here and restore it back to original should you ever decide to sell. But very interesting finish on this one with just very minor playwear. Back of the headstock, serial number custom shop 800-287. So that means it was probably fairly early in 2018 when this one was made. Here's another good way to see the different colors it can be. No major chips, nicks, or dings along the headstock. No breaks, cracks, or repairs. But again, you can see those lines. They're pretty much ever present. I don't think there's anything Gibson could have done to conceal that even more. But had those not have been there, I would have never known this was a maple neck because you can't see it anywhere. It would almost be an interesting project to try to see through the finish to see if there was any flame, which you can do, and I should probably make a video about that one day. Back of the instrument here, no major scratches or anything. I mean, this guitar was not played a lot, but I don't want to describe it as mint because I don't believe anything is truly mint condition. There's always, a few stray marks here and there. Inside here, you have all the quick connect electronics, and right on the back side of the plate is where Gibson mounted the 9-volt. I kind of wish they just would have did one of those flip out ones. Those things make life a little bit easier when you have to change them out. But everything is looking good at the back of this one. Take a look at the sides. You can see where the neck joins the body. There's some finish checking starting. That happens on all Gibsons. You can also see it on that gold Modern Flying V. It's not a break, crack, or repair, so nothing to worry about. And honestly, as the years go on, it's just going to keep spreading until you eventually have an outline on both sides. That's just the sad truth of Gibson guitars with the nitro finish. That's just something you have to live with on nitro finishes. Stock Schaller strap buttons. Everything is good on this ice blue metallic Prism Les Paul. Blacklight time. Being essentially a brand new guitar, we're not going to get a lot of glowing action here, but it would show us if somebody did a touch-up after the factory. You can see somebody must have been slightly sweaty when they played this because it has absorbed into the finish, or maybe it's slightly reacting with the case or something. So that's interesting. And then the back of the neck here, nothing too bad. Definitely passes. This instrument comes in its original Gibson Lifton style reissue case. Why they give this case to this guitar, I have no idea. It's probably just because they come out of the custom shop. But this thing, it's pretty modern metal looking. And then it has this pretty case. But you've got the 4 latches on the front here, as well as a 5th back latch. This one locks if you so desire. Condition-wise, you do have some scratches. I would say this is the worst scuff right there, but you've just got, light storage wear. The interior of these cases, these are great cases. This is the less historically accurate version. It's got nice heel support and a double neck rest. That's what makes it not historically accurate. But you really can't get a much better case than this one. It's got the vintage looks, but it's still modern and protective. The only downside about these things is they're just too darn pretty to actually take out and use as a case, because you don't want stuff like that happening. With a custom guitar like this, you're gonna want to hold on to the certificate of authenticity just in case. But you also have your checklist here that is signed to the same guitar. And Gibson does send these with the Schaller counterparts, as well as a pickguard should you wish to install it, and a regular black toggle plate instead of that metal one. But here's the thing. I tried installing this, but it's not the right size. I think that's kind of an oversight on Gibson's part. You would have to file this down a little bit to fit correctly. So keep that in mind. Gibson doesn't really know what they're doing at that. But just in case you're curious what the pickguard looks like on it, it would look something like this. I almost think just a plain black pickguard that wasn't multi-ply would have looked better. If you think you might be interested in being the next owner of this one-off Blackout chambered Les Paul custom, feel free to check out that link in the description that will take you to the Reverb for Sale ad. Thank you, Troglodytes, for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and we will see you tomorrow on the next episode. Take care.